NeuroVoider is a new roguelike indie game out on the Nintendo Switch this week, but it's been available on Xbox One, PS4, and PC for a while now. The game goes for $13.99 across consoles and PC. NeuroVoider takes place in a cyberpunk futuristic world filled with evil robots trying to destroy you. You play as an intelligent brain in a robot mech suit equipped with rockets, swords, and shotguns, tasked with saving the world from these scraps of metal. It's a pretty straightforward story, on par with a lot of classic retro games where it's just sort of background info to give you some context as to what the gameplay is all about. NeuroVoider is an interesting roguelike indie game mixed in with some RPG mechanics and twin-stick shooter gameplay. It joins a pretty large list of recent roguelike indie releases, especially on the Nintendo Switch. What helps this game stand out a bit more is the customization features and the RPG mechanics. When you start the game, it's broken up into three main difficulties: Arcade Mode, which is for those of you new to the genre, Rogue for fans of the genre, and Voider for those of you who crave a challenge and major difficulty in the game. Starting the game, it lets you choose to play with up to 4 players, but it's entirely playable with just one if you'd like. You play as a smart brain life form and choose your mech reg you'd like to control. Dash uses a sword weapon, Rampage uses a shotgun weapon, and Fortress uses a rocket launcher. After choosing your rig, you're able to attach a skill of some sort, and this will act as a special move. They vary vastly in effect. It can make you invulnerable for a few seconds, heal you, or activate an EMP that disables nearby robots for a few seconds. Those are just a few examples though. There is a great amount of different choices with different effects, so you can completely mix up your choices for different playthroughs. It adds to the overall variety of the gameplay. Those are just a few examples of the skills, but there's a great amount of them with different choices of effects, so you can completely mix your choices for different playthroughs. It overall adds to the general variety of the gameplay. Once you choose your mech and your skill, you're given 3 level choices with different stats. The stats are the size of the level, the amount of elite enemies in the level, and usually the more elites there are, the more difficult the level turns out to be, and lastly loot, the amount of chests with collectible items inside of them. So as the player, you choose the type of level you want to play, and this happens for every single level outside of the boss fights. You'll actually see the game structure above this level selection. So a basic run will have you play through 20 levels, 4 of which are boss fights. On occasion, you'll run 2 sort of special zones in the level selection. These are called metaverse stages, and they provide a good change of pace. They give you a self-destruct timer to finish the level and usually provide a nice bonus for completing the level. These levels can get pretty challenging as they offer way more enemies and higher difficulty, but they also give you a pretty big reward, so it's all a risk and reward option. The gameplay here is very much a twin-stick shooter type. You go around the stage shooting down enemies while primarily looking for reactors. You're supposed to destroy all the reactors in the stage, and you're given the total number at the top of the screen. From here, you'll explore the stage, shooting down enemies with your main weapon or sub-weapon, while also trying to locate all the reactors. You want to be conservative with your life though, because once you die, you start the game all over again. You'll also have a meter dedicated to overheating your machine, so if you fire your weapon pretty often and frequently, your machine might overheat and you might have to wait a bit before firing again. Luckily, with the roguelike like this that focuses on being a twin-stick shooter, the controls feel really tight, so never did I feel like there was a cheap death, but pretty much every death was brought on by my own moves. It felt very fair. Now once you complete a level by finding all the reactors, you're able to teleport out of that stage and onto the next one, though you're given a quick chance to invest all your loot earnings into your rig. In this sort of transition phase, you can repair your rig, change out parts, or forge new parts using the elements you found in the previous stages. If you have enough parts, you can essentially just change up the rig type that you originally chose. The new rig parts also tend to have better stats than what you originally had, so that's where the whole level up RPG elements come into play. Now I mentioned the level structure before, and part of that level structure are the boss fights. They tend to come every 5 levels. Usually you'll get a boss with multiple weak points that you'll have to switch between shooting at. As you shoot down these weak points, you'll lower the main health of the boss, but also have to keep an eye out for smaller enemies trying to get in your way. While they try to hurt you, you can actually destroy these smaller enemies to earn back some health and stay alive. Generally, the gameplay is very solid for this game, though the levels could be a bit better in terms of variety. They do have different terrains and so different level elements with every terrain, but replaying the game, the designs of certain levels felt a bit repetitive. The layouts are technically randomly generated, so they are different layouts every time, but they didn't feel particularly unique. Like, all the stages of a particular terrain tend to feel very similar even though the layouts are different. Now, the changes in terrain between the different groups of levels and the metaverse levels provide a nice change of pace, but the levels grouped up into a particular terrain do feel very much the same regardless. It's sort of like saying that even though a Mario 2D game tends to have 8 different types of terrain worlds, the levels in each world look very similar and thus feel very similar. Outside of the main game, there is a daily challenge mode, and it's meant for those of you that like competing for high scores and comparing your score against others online. It's pretty much the same gameplay as the base game, but now with an online competitive aspect to it. If you're playing this on the Nintendo Switch, the gameplay does translate pretty well to portable mode thanks to the simple control scheme of the game. The arcade nature of it and the focus on replaying it over and over again do make the gameplay perfect for traveling and quick play sessions. You can also play the co-op mode with just a single Joy-Con per person, though I'd recommend getting a traditional controller instead because when you do use a single Joy-Con, you sacrifice the manual aim of having a second analog stick for an auto aim mechanic that just isn't as great. If you do plan on playing co-op tabletop mode, things can get quite a bit small in terms of the camera perspective and the sprites if the players move away from each other, so it's something to keep in mind if you did plan on playing the game like that. Despite my nitpicks of levels in the same terrains feeling the same, the terrains themselves look very pretty. The sprite work animation looks lovely, especially when things like rockets are launched, leaving big clouds of smoke with explosions. The entire gameplay actually has this sort of CRT effect over it. It makes the gameplay look like it's being played on a tube TV with a really big bulge in the middle. It's a nice art style touch that makes the game feel extra retro. I also want to give a shout out to the lighting effects in this game, as a lot of the terrains are dark, but the little touches of light, whether it's coming from your rig, enemies, or elements of the background, really do play nicely with the terrain sprites. For the Nintendo Switch specifically, the sprites look sharp in portable mode, but I didn't really expect anything different from a game that's not that intensive in terms of technical specs. Holy crap, the soundtrack in this game, you guys. If you don't care about this game at all, at least go look up the soundtrack and pick it up because it nails the aesthetics perfectly. Not only that, but it's great to listen to outside of the game. While playing the game, I got a lot of vibes of Tron Legacy, remembering when I watched the movie back in IMAX in 2010, listening to the amazing Daft Punk soundtrack. Along with the really great music are some pretty decent sound effects for things like lasers, bullets, and rockets flying all over the place along with that soundtrack. But really, the standout thing here is definitely the music. I'll actually go ahead and leave a link to the soundtrack itself if you want to check it out in the description down below. Overall, NeuroVoider is one of my favorite roguelike indie games in recent memory, and among the best of the handful of ones out on the Switch at the moment. The gameplay is solid while providing variety through its rig customization system. Use a shotgun, rocket launcher, a sword, or even a laser beam to destroy enemy robots, and then use parts from those robots and treasure chests to further upgrade your own rig. It's all a lot of fun, though I do wish there was a bit more variety in terms of the looks of levels, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the title. For the $14 price tag, I think it's a pretty good deal for the gameplay you get in return, and if you're playing this on Switch, it's a really good travel companion game. That does it for my review of NeuroVoider for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. If you have any questions about the game, feel free to ask me in the comment section down below, and if you enjoy content like this, then please consider subscribing for more reviews and entertainment videos on PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. As always, thank you all very much for watching, and keep on gaming.